So this week, we begin reading the book of Leviticus. And a lot of people associate Leviticus with sacrifices. It actually begins with a call. God is calling out to Moses, and through Moses calling out to us. So think about it that way for a moment. The whole book is a call out to us. But let's look at the first few verses of this parsha, and then the end of the parsha. Vayikra el Moshe. Adonai called to Moses and spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying, "Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when any of you presents an offering of cattle to the Lord, he shall choose his offering from the herd or from the flock. If his offering is a burnt offering from the herd, he shall make his offering a male without blemish. He shall bring it to the entrance of the tent of meeting for acceptance in his behalf before the Lord. He shall lay his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, that it may be acceptable in his behalf, in expiation for him. The bull shall be slaughtered before the Lord, and Aaron's sons, the priest, shall offer the blood, dashing the blood against all sides of the altar, which is at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The burnt offering shall be flayed and cut up into sections. The sons of Aaron, the priest, shall put fire on the altar and lay out wood upon the fire. And Aaron's sons, the priest, shall lay out the sections with the head and the suet on the wood that is on the fire upon the altar. Its entrails and legs shall be washed with water, and the priest shall turn the whole thing into smoke on the altar as a burnt offering, a gift of pleasing fragrance or odor to the Lord." And before saying anything else about such grits and a barbecue, that's what one teacher once said to me, or said to a group of us, anything that raises a barbecue and grits to a level of holiness is okay with me. Then again, I'm a vegetarian, so. Now, let me read the last chapter 5 of Leviticus. If a person incurs guilt when he has heard a public pronouncement, and although able to testify as one who has either seen or learned of the matter, he does not give information, so that he is subject to punishment. Or when a person touches any impure thing, be it the carcass of an impure beast, or the carcass of impure cattle, or the carcass of an impure creeping thing, and the fact has escaped him, and then being impure, he realizes his guilt. Or when he touches human impurity, any such impurity whereby one becomes impure, and though he has known it, the fact has escaped him, but later he realizes he's done something, and that he in that state, and realizes his guilt. Or when a person utters an oath for a bad or good purpose, whatever that person may utter in an oath, and though he has known it, the fact has escaped him, but later he realizes his guilt in any of these matters. When he realizes his guilt in any of these matters, he shall confess that wherein he has sinned, and he shall bring as his penalty to the Lord for the sin of which he is guilty, a female from the flock, sheep or goat, as a purification offering, and the priest shall make expiation on his behalf for his sin. But if he cannot afford a sheep, he shall bring to the Lord as his penalty for that of which he is guilty 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one for a purification offering and the other for a burnt offering. He shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer first the one for the purification offering, pinching its head at the nape without severing it, he shall sprinkle some of the blood of the purification offering on the side of the altar, and what remains of the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a purification offering. And the second one he shall prepare as a burnt offering according to regulation. Thus the priest shall make expiation on his behalf for the sin of which he is guilty, and he shall be forgiven. And if he cannot afford 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, he shall bring as his offering for that of which he is guilty 1/10 of a measure of choice flour for a purification offering. He shall not add oil to it or lay frankincense on it, for it is a purification offering. He shall bring it to the priest, and the priest shall scoop out of it a handful as a token portion of it and turn it into smoke on the altar with the Lord's gifts. It is a purification offering. Thus, the priest shall make expiation on his behalf for whichever of these sins he is guilty, and he shall be forgiven. It shall belong to the priest like the grain offering. So the call goes out to us, and somehow we respond with some form of offering. Now the call goes out amidst the clutter of life, which is why the description of the response is so cluttered. Various different sacrifices for different moments, for different groups and individuals, for different purposes, all with different procedures. It caused me to reflect on the variety of things that I've been doing this week, and I'm sure you've been doing quite a variety of things. Some of those things I've been doing might be of interest. So, to you, this week, I was talking to someone from the Memorial Scrolls Trust in London. In 1964, Westminster Synagogue, a progressive synagogue in London, with the help of some of its members, acquired over 1,500 scrolls from the Czech government that had been stored in warehouses and then in a ruined synagogue under rather bad conditions since the Second World War. These scrolls were part of what little had survived their communities in Bohemia and Moravia. Eventually, Westminster Synagogue created the Memorial Scrolls Trust, repaired some of the scrolls, and began placing them around the world on permanent loan to synagogues and institutions. Now, 50 years after they started this type of placement, the strong need is there to keep track of these scattered scrolls, because congregations tend to forget their own history and forget what they have. I grew up in Mishkan Torah in Greenbelt, Maryland, which has had one of these scrolls since 1972, so I knew of the story. And they recently hosted a talk by a person from the Memorial Scrolls Trust about their scroll, which is how I came to learn about the trust. It turns out Bethel has one too, on display outside their sanctuary, because it is not in kosher condition and probably never will be again. But I've had several conversations and email letters this week with people from that trust about where some of these scrolls are around us. And I ended up speaking with people at the trust about the Jewish Community Legacy Project that we are involved with, because the Jewish Community Legacy Project is working now with hundreds of small congregations. And so, of course, with the Memorial Scrolls Trust having over 1,000 scrolls out there, they're going to start coming across each other. And I've been communicating with the Harrisburg Jewish Federation about some joint congregational programming on inclusivity issues that will be coming up soon. And through the Religion and Society Center, organizing dialogues, Jewish Christian dialogues, and a dialogue on pluralism in religion and social issues that we're calling Holy Experiment 4.0, a nod to William Penn's description of Pennsylvania, and talking to the Interfaith Alliance and Working with our board. We had a board meeting this week at Temple Beth Shalom. And reaching out to some of the scattered and under-affiliated people around us to see if our seders would be of any interest to them. And creating and distributing written materials for Passover at the prison, and talking through prison bars with inmates about ways they can still try to find meaning, ways they can stake out meaning for themselves in the course of their own lives behind bars. And Ira has been helping me, thank you very much, Ira, to record in advance a Seder or two for the Jewish home, because only by showing it on their closed circuit television are we going to be able to get the Seder liturgy into the home this year, given the ongoing COVID conditions as they still remain. And because we still need to do more recording, we're having continuity issues. I have to look the same on Monday as I did on Thursday. So all of a sudden, it means I can't get my end of winter pre-Pesach haircut until after Monday. And all the time, I'm still trying to figure out when I'm going to clean my house and my kitchen for Pesach. So why am I telling you all this? Because this is the material from which life is made and from which community is made. You have a list like this too of various different things you are doing and ways you're contributing to community, in the ways that you are working with family, contributing with family, and structuring life. This is the material from which community is built. And therefore, when we go to shape holy community, this is the material that we shape into holy community. It is lots of scattered activity, all happening at once. And in Leviticus, we read of such details. We read of lots of details, scattered details. The needs of the community and the individuals arise, and then there is a specific response. Even in the sections that we read, what happens if you do this type of acts and forget this type of thing, and what happens if you can't afford to bring this type of thing, and what happens if, these were just a few of those sections. When you read Leviticus, it's like reading one sort of case after another, each case calling out to an individual, and then each call requiring a response. Throughout the book, we're reading this long list of responses, and yet there is a larger overall structure. There is a larger overall structure because this book, what the book of Leviticus ultimately is about, is how to structure sacred community. How to structure sacred community. The book talks about sacrifices, talks about modes of worship, it talks about loving the stranger, it talks about forgiveness and compassion and justice. It talks about loving your neighbor as yourself and loving the stranger, and it talks about the holidays and laws of worship and economic principles about loans and land holdings and debt and servitude. And you can read these elements all one after the other, but there is a larger structure that it's all a part of, and that larger structure can elude us. We lose track of the forest for the trees, both in the text and in life. I was asked this week by one of those under-affiliated people out there that we are in touch with. An interesting dynamic. I had thought about her as I was looking through my list, and then she got in touch with me. That was interesting. Be good if you can just think about people and then they get in touch with you. So I was asked, said just without much explanation, what's more important, family? What's more important to God, family or Torah? And of course, my answer is, they're all intertwined. If we think of family and community on the one hand, and Torah, life, wisdom, and tradition on the other, well, family and community are the container that hold Torah, wisdom, and tradition. And tradition, wisdom, and Torah are the glue that holds family and community together. So one is the container that holds the other. One is the glue that holds it all together. So both are important. Each needs the other. And together, they give expression to sacred community. They are expressed in the form of sacred community, holy community. And this is what Leviticus strives to express and what we try to express in how we build our lives together. All together, our lives can be shaped to create a structure, if we let it, a structure that reflects our most sacred values. That is actually why some of you may remember, well, some of you know that when we start a board meeting, we say a blessing, which ends Tzorkei HaTzibor, with the needs of the community. Blessed are you, God, who makes us holy with commandments and commands us to engage in needs of the community. And it is based on a blessing about the study of Torah, which is blessed is God who makes us holy with commandments and commands us to engage in the study of Torah, because there is a drash in the Talmud that says that dealing with the needs of the community is like studying Torah. So we take doing for the community and make a conscious statement about it, that in doing these chores for the community, we are helping to structure holy community. And you may remember when Connie Songer was president of Temple Beth Shalom, she took the gavel. I loved this. She took the gavel, the president's gavel. I'm banging it now. And she bought a silver yad, a yad which is used to point out Torah. And I think the yad even said, Vizot HaTorah, and this is the Torah. So, and she chained them together so that, as a reminder, that when in gaveling the board meeting together, that the board was actually making Torah, implementing Torah. The board was actually shaping community and shaping sacred community, and therefore shaping the presence of Torah in the community, in life. So there's much, so that is the response, creating holy community. The call, there's always something calling towards us, but the call for now has a lot to do with Passover, liberation. Spring is coming. I noted the daffodils and the forsythia are about to bloom. I recall the annual sea of forced daffodil bulbs that used to accent the model Seder. Some of you may remember Lillian Kranzel would provide these bulbs. The model Seder of Temple Beth Shalom always was framed in a sea of yellow daffodils, We are part of an experimental cohort of Jewish communities coming together for mutual support throughout central Pennsylvania in the midst of scattered numbers of unaffiliated Jewish individuals and non-Jewish seekers, not sure what they are seeking, while we sit on a treasure trove of wisdom. That's a calling. We're doing that in a nation sorely in need of finding itself again, in the midst of a pandemic as well, all of which illuminates the need for wisdom ever and evermore. There is much around us to inspire us to great amazement and wonder, and many things to call us to action. There are many calls coming our way for us to be that holy community that we read about in the book of Leviticus. Let us ever listen for that call and consider carefully the response we build, even as we read about the response that informed our people thousands of years ago in a desert wilderness, as recorded in the book we begin tonight. Shabbat Shalom. And let us build sacred community together. So, I need the prayer book. So let us say Kiddush. Which is a way of living out. It's actually living out one of the commandments, in the 10 Commandments. Remember the Sabbath to make it holy. So this blessing is all about proclaiming Shabbat, Kodesh, Shabbat, holy. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kadsho b'yahava uvratzon himkilanu zikaron lemahaseh v'reheshit ki hu yom techila lemikra hekodesh zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki aleinu karata v'yotanu kidashta lavodatecha v'shabbat kadshecha v'yava uvratzon hinchaltanu baruch ata Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol v'atet gdula liyotzeh bereshit shenatan lanu Torah hatemed v'chayei olam nata betochenu v'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך. כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. And so we put our hope in you, the eminence our God, that soon we may behold the full splendor of your might and see idolatry vanish from the earth, and all material gods be swept away, and the power of your rule repair the world. As it is written in your Torah, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed, v'nehemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz, vayom hahu yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad. On that day, shall God be one, and God's name shall be one. Once more, we need the names of those we're saying Kaddish for. Wait a minute. I can get that in a minute. Let me get that in a minute. I'll be back in just a second.